Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard. Thank you for watching today's Corn Belt Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We're going to start off looking at the corn planting progress numbers. These were just updated here the other day. We continue to watch the eastern Corn Belt and the state of South Dakota as our main trouble spots here for a variety of different reasons. So we look at the last 72 hours of precipitation. This was well advertised here. This slow-moving storm system that brought some rain here to the eastern Corn Belt. Illinois missing out on most of that, getting some scattered showers moving through the area Friday and Saturday, and then part of Sunday. Meanwhile, Indiana picked up quite a bit of rain shower activity Sunday, and the state of Ohio got that late Sunday into Monday. Also off to the west, we were watching that slow-moving front that brought scattered thunderstorms to parts of the Dakotas, the upper Midwest, trailing down to the central and southern plains. As you take a look at that little swath there from parts of Kansas into Oklahoma and Texas, that was associated with a complex of storms that ended up producing quite a bit of wind damage as it made its way into the southern plains there in Oklahoma and Texas. And then we also had a couple isolated tornado reports in northeastern Iowa there, where we see some light precipitation showing up, just a couple isolated thunderstorms. But again, just enough to produce a little bit of severe weather there over the last couple of days. As we look at the last 14 days of precipitation here, it was really starting to resemble this summer pattern where we flip to a regime here where we're talking about pockets of heavy rain, corridors of heavy rain where these thunderstorm complexes track, but then corridors of dry weather as well, instead of having the situation that we saw maybe 2 weeks ago where this map maybe resembled blue covering the entire Corn Belt. We're finally pivoting away from that, but there is still some trouble looming in the 5 to 10 day forecast. So we look at the next 5 days. It doesn't look too bad. We see a blob there of some heavy precipitation over parts of Missouri and Illinois. Some of that associated with or extending up to the north here into the state of Wisconsin. Scattered showers and storms possible across the Dakotas and the upper Midwest. Mostly dry as we move into parts of the state of Indiana and western Ohio, but part of that showing up there in eastern Ohio is this storm system that's making its way out of the area now. So we look at the next 10 days, though, combining that, the next 5 and the next 10 days here, you see the trouble spot setting up again in some areas that have already dealt with some heavy rain, talking about parts of southeastern Kansas into Missouri, and then that corridor lifts off to the east-northeast along the Ohio River Valley. We'll also be watching parts of the high plains, western Kansas and Nebraska for the development of some thunderstorms, perhaps some severe weather as we head into next week. The 15-day GFS Ensemble precipitation anomaly forecast here, so this takes us all the way to June 25th. And that looks pretty similar there, looking at that potential trouble spot here across parts of Kansas and Missouri, extending eastward into the eastern Corn Belt. Also looking at that little peak in precipitation here where we could be dealing with a few rounds of severe weather, parts of western Kansas, western Nebraska, Colorado, and maybe all the way up towards the Black Hills region of South Dakota. The temperature forecast for the next 5 days, this takes us through June 16th. Still dealing with this cooler and less humid air mass across the region as we deal with a big trough over the Great Lakes that is pumping in cooler and less humid air from our friends to the north in Canada. As we look at the next 5 days that follow, June 17th through June 21st, beginning to moderate some, still holding out of those cooler risks though, especially in parts of the northwestern Corn Belt here, the Dakotas, Nebraska, and Kansas, pivoting back over towards closer to normal, closer to average in the central and the eastern Corn Belt. We'll look at the jet stream here, and we're watching this big trough. This is what is broadly associated with or responsible for the cooler temperatures across the entire central United States. And then this section here, this little short wave, this burst of stronger winds in the upper levels of the jet stream pushing into the central United States. This is what is responsible for the precipitation that we're seeing here over the next 24 to 72 hours over parts of the Corn Belt that we're going to take a look at here. The satellite picture as the sun rises on Tuesday morning. Here is that little storm system that's making its way right now through the central Corn Belt. It'll continue to move off to the east-southeast, bringing scattered precipitation to the eastern Corn Belt by the time we get to Wednesday and Thursday. We'll look at the radar picture here, and we can see that precipitation falling now over the Dakotas and Nebraska. This will track into the state of Iowa today before making its way into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio during the day Wednesday and Thursday. We'll look at the high-resolution rapid refresh model here to get us started off looking at the next day and a half of precipitation. We'll start off on Tuesday morning. Again, watching this little storm system making its way across the state of Iowa. As we head into the afternoon hours, we get the sun to come out underneath this trough, this upper level low. We'll see some scattered shower and thunderstorm activity kicking off across the Dakotas, across the upper Midwest here, anywhere from Nebraska to North Dakota over towards the state of Wisconsin. Not expecting any major severe weather with this. There is a marginal risk of maybe some large hail with some of the stronger cells here. As we head into the late afternoon and evening hours, we'll watch thunderstorms begin to develop here all the way across parts of as far south as southern Kansas, northern Oklahoma. And this is where we could have the slight risk of maybe an isolated severe storm here as well, large hail, damaging winds, maybe a tornado possible. If that's going to happen, it's going to be across parts of southern or central Kansas here. But the primary risk today going to be some large hail with some of those stronger updrafts. As we head into the overnight now, as we remember here, Tuesday, getting into a Tuesday night here, dry across the eastern Corn Belt. But that begins to change as we head into the day on Wednesday. Here we are now around sunrise on Wednesday morning, seeing showers extending all the way from Oklahoma into Missouri, along the Illinois-Iowa border into the state of Michigan and Wisconsin. As we head into the later part of the day on Wednesday, getting into Wednesday afternoon, we see the similar thing here. The afternoon comes out, or the sun comes out in the afternoon. We get our peak instability here, and we see some showers developing anywhere from the Dakotas into the Central Plains here, with more widespread precipitation extending from Michigan into parts of Illinois. Again, this is Wednesday afternoon, seeing that precipitation move into the area. As we head through the rest of the day, this is going to be kicking off or moving off to the east as we head into Wednesday evening and the overnight on Wednesday, bringing precipitation into the states of Indiana and Ohio, also parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, seeing that as well. The reason we're not talking about a bigger severe weather risk here is just we got really marginal instability values here. We were dealing with a regime where we were pumping up Gulf moisture from the Gulf of Mexico almost nonstop with an area of high pressure over the southeastern United States, but that has come to an end with that recent cold frontal passage here several days ago, bringing in, again, this cooler and less humid air mass. So as we head through the day, I'm going to go ahead and we'll step through time with this one. I'll show you again, this is why the higher risk for a strong storm is going to be confined to parts of Kansas and southward, and that's because that is where the greatest instability values can be found. As we head into mid to late June, if we're talking about really concentrated or robust severe storms, we want to see values over about 2,000 on our CAPE scale here. This is in joules per kilogram. Getting into these yellow, orange, and red colors is what's more common this time of year. You see that off to the Gulf of Mexico, obviously, because we shoved all of that off to the south with that recent cold front. But we can see at least marginal instability values, some pockets of stronger instability, again, from the Panhandle region all the way into central Kansas as we get into Tuesday afternoon and evening. So we go through the day on Wednesday. We see, again, really meager instability values across the mid-Mississippi Valley, maybe enough to produce a couple of thunderstorms, maybe an isolated storm reaches severe levels, producing some large hail, maybe some gusty winds, but not expecting a big severe weather event with this storm system that's moving through the area Tuesday through Thursday. So we look at the high-resolution NAM model, taking a look at the similar time period here, and we see a similar picture between the two models. As we get into Tuesday evening now, this is around sunset tonight, Tuesday. We're seeing those showers extending from the state of Iowa, some thunderstorm activity. This is where we could see some severe weather from the panhandles into the state of Kansas with isolated showers and maybe a thunderstorm or two across the Dakotas and the upper Midwest. So we head through Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning. This is sunrise now, just about on Wednesday morning. Again, same picture. The heavier rain shower activity extending from the UP of Michigan across Wisconsin to the Illinois-Indiana border into parts of central and southern Missouri, with more isolated activity trailing off behind that into the southern plains region. Going into the afternoon and evening on Wednesday, again, the high-resolution NAM reflects the high-resolution rapid refresh model, seeing that precipitation activity shift off towards the eastern Corn Belt Wednesday evening and Wednesday overnight. So we get all the way into Thursday morning. This thing is beginning to lift off to the northeast, but we're still dealing with some of that rain lingering across the state of Ohio here Thursday morning into Thursday early afternoon, which again is problematic as Ohio is one of the states struggling the most here to get planting wrapped up. As we look again at, we're taking a look at precipitable water in the atmosphere. This is the water content within the atmosphere. And as you kind of reflect back on the last 2 weeks, you remember we had this high pressure sitting over the southeastern United States with just a river of moisture pumping up from the Gulf of Mexico. And it's almost the complete opposite at this point. Now, instead of pumping moisture into the central United States, fueling these widespread heavy rain events, widespread severe weather outbreaks, we've got a complete opposite situation now where we've got reinforcing shots of drier air plunging out of the state of Canada. And again, that just is not conducive for heavy rain and widespread severe weather. And that's going to be what we'll be dealing with here for at least the next 4 to 5 days before we kind of shift back to a more typical summer pattern. And again, you saw that on the 10-day precipitation forecast, reintroducing the chances for some pockets of heavier rain. So the high-resolution NAM model, just taking a look at the precipitation totals, total accumulation here, and we'll do this through time as well, getting us all the way through Tuesday evening now. This will be sunset on Tuesday, seeing where that precipitation will be heaviest across the Dakotas and the upper Midwest, and then along the Nebraska and Iowa border with more isolated thunderstorms expected across the state of Kansas. Some of those could be severe. As we head through Wednesday overnight, getting all the way to sunrise on Wednesday morning, the eastern Corn Belt has remained dry up to this point. Scattered shower activity off to the north again, so some folks going to be remaining dry across the Dakotas here, with the more widespread precipitation now moving across the state of Missouri, Iowa, and Wisconsin. And we'll get into lunchtime now on Wednesday afternoon. That precipitation finally making its way across the state of Illinois. But if you're in the eastern, southern Illinois, probably going to be dry for the first half of the day on Wednesday at least, if not all the way into the evening. This is now sunset on Wednesday evening, starting to see this precipitation make its way towards the Illinois-Indiana border. Also seeing some shower activity making its way out of Kentucky and Tennessee into the state of Ohio. We'll take this all the way out now into Thursday afternoon just so you can see the picture there again. Not a pattern that's conducive to widespread soaking rains, widespread severe weather outbreaks. We're talking about scattered showers and scattered thunderstorm activities here. So while we do see chances for precipitation between Tuesday and Thursday afternoon across essentially the entire Corn Belt, a lot of folks will be remaining dry here. It's just going to be these pockets of heavier precipitation here. But again, a lot of folks remaining dry until we get towards the weekend. Here's just a snapshot again, one more time, the high-resolution NAM model precipitation forecast, total accumulation forecast all the way through about noon on Thursday afternoon. So here's the severe weather outlook, the day one from the Storm Prediction Center, highlighting that slight risk across Kansas into the Panhandle region, and again with a marginal risk of maybe a couple storms producing some hail all the way north into the Dakotas, parts of Nebraska and Iowa. The day two outlook, this would be for Wednesday. Again, a couple pockets, a couple marginal risks here across southern Missouri, another one there over in parts of Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee, with just general thunderstorm risks here expanding across the rest of the central and eastern Corn Belt. Finally, Thursday, not talking about any severe weather across the Corn Belt here, just a general thunderstorm risk over the eastern Corn Belt and then parts of the high plains, Nebraska, Kentucky, I keep wanting to call Kansas Kentucky. It's not Kentucky. Okay, across Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas is that state over there in the western high plains. Let's look a little bit further, though. Let's check in with the European model here and see where we're headed for the weekend. Talk about what is causing the heavier rain risks as we get towards the end of the weekend into early next week. Here's our big trough. Here is that wave punching out of Canada right now, triggering the showers and storms across the central United States. We'll go ahead and we'll go click through time with this one as it does play pretty quick. We'll go quickly here through Wednesday and Thursday because we've covered that pretty much in high detail here, higher detail than we'd be able to do here with the European model. But as this lifts out of the region here late Thursday into Friday morning, we're dry again across a big chunk of the Corn Belt with high pressure kind of lingering off to the south of the eastern Corn Belt. And now we're going to shift to a pattern again where we're watching more zonal flow. We're not talking about a big trough. We're not talking about a big ridge, but it's this more zonal flow where we're talking about the flow being riddled with these little short waves, these little pockets of faster moving air aloft in the jet stream that trigger these clusters of showers and storms near the surface. So we're looking at Saturday morning now. We'll go ahead and we'll get into midday Saturday. And this is where we will be watching for this precipitation to kind of kick into a more significant regime. We'll get into Sunday now, Sunday morning, getting into Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, starting to see these pockets of showers and storms becoming a little bit more widespread associated with some of these shortwave troughs embedded within the flow of the jet stream. But things really begin to ramp up as we head into the early part of next week, talking about some heavier precipitation across this region here as we get into Monday and Tuesday. We'll take a look at the side-by-side here, the European model and the GFS precipitation forecast. We'll click through time with this one as well, just to show you some of the agreements and the disagreements that they have as we get through the day Wednesday into Thursday, watching the storm system lift off to the north and east. We have some agreement there with high pressure on the backside, giving us a mostly quiet day for a lot of people in the Corn Belt Thursday and Friday. As we get into Friday evening now, starting to see these pockets of showers and storms developing on both models here, from the high plains into the upper Midwest. Same story here, western Nebraska and Kansas into the Dakotas, over towards northern Wisconsin and Minnesota, where we'll see some of that precipitation. As we get into the day on Saturday, we see the forecast starting to include some showers and storms over in the eastern Corn Belt. This is when states like Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio will flip back to seeing these chances for scattered storms during the day on Saturday into Sunday. And that kind of continues for the next few days, and that's where we have the opportunities for pockets of heavier rain as we get into the early part of next week. So here we are, we're on Sunday evening now, watching these pockets of showers and storms anywhere from the Dakotas into the western high plains, and then another corridor of that along the Ohio River Valley. Same story here, and again, this is just the predictability on this is very low. The pattern we've got a good agreement on, but right now telling you exactly where these clusters of thunderstorms are going to be when we get into the Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday time frame, it's just not possible. These models aren't going to pick up on it, and forecasters can't pick up on those subtle details as well when we get that far out. Again, you just introduced the butterfly effect here when we're talking about subtle waves in the upper levels of the atmosphere. A little bit of lift to kick off these areas of thunderstorms. It's something we'll have to watch day by day. So Eric will have further updates on this pattern as we get into his Thursday morning ag forecast video. And then once we get the Corn Belt update here midday on Friday, we'll be able to talk a little bit more in depth about the pattern getting into next week. But I just want to kind of show you, we're watching this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday storm system moving from west to east across the Corn Belt. And then we get a little bit of a break before we start dealing with a regime that will have isolated pockets of trouble spots as we get into the back half of the weekend into early next week. We'll take this all the way out. It looks like I ended it there on Sunday for that very reason, just because talking about Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at this point, it's going to be doing a bit of a disservice because it's just the forecast will change by the time we get to that point, at least a little bit. Side by side here, the European model on the left, the GFS on the right. Total precipitation forecast getting us through Sunday evening here. So this is Tuesday through Sunday, June 16th. And we see pretty good agreement, but you're seeing the details beginning to diverge there, where we see the higher corridor from Kansas into the Ohio River Valley, but the European model has maybe the higher precipitation a little bit further south, whereas the GFS has that going through the eastern Corn Belt with more widespread heavy precipitation. You see the isolated nature, the scattered nature to the thunderstorm activity across the Dakotas and the high plains. The GFS may be a little bit more gung-ho with some heavier pockets of precipitation there again, but that once again is the details that we're going to leave for the forecast that'll be coming out later on this week. Just know that it's out there. Know that we're watching this light precipitation producing system here midweek, and then know that as we head towards the back half of the weekend and early next week, it appears that we'll be dealing with at least pockets of trouble spots with heavy rain and severe thunderstorms. Finishing up with the precipitation topic here, we'll look at the national blended model, the NBM 10-day forecast here, the accumulated forecast, and this will show you exactly what I just said to you as we go through Wednesday into Thursday, talking about this isolated pockets of heavier rain, but mostly a light precipitation event here Wednesday and Thursday. We take this through the weekend. We remain dry across much of the Corn Belt here into Saturday morning. Again, still just looking at what fell here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday across the Corn Belt, but things begin to change as we get into Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. This is 1 a.m. on Sunday. This would be 1 p.m., 7 p.m. on Sunday, getting into Monday morning, Monday evening, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And there you see that shift. We'll take it back one more time as we look at total precipitation through 7 p.m., or let's take it back one step further here. Total precipitation through 1 a.m. on Saturday. Very light, scattered in nature across the Corn Belt. And that's as we get into Saturday afternoon and evening. This is your Saturday precipitation, Missouri and Illinois. And then as we get into Sunday, it's just, the devil's lost in the details, I guess, is what we could say is, looking at Sunday into early next week. But this is something that we'll be talking about more Thursday and Friday is where we expect the trouble spots to set up here in this corridor, where we've got scattered storm severe weather chances here in the high plains, and then chances for these corridors of thunderstorm clusters tracking from the state of Kansas, Oklahoma into the Ohio River Valley, including the eastern Corn Belt. We'll finish with temperatures. You know, we're dealing with a cooler and less humid air mass here. We've got high temperatures on Tuesday in the 70s and 80s across the Corn Belt, even dealing with some 60s here, where we'll have rain and cloud cover across the central Corn Belt here from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, some areas here in Nebraska, the Dakotas, only hitting the 60s for high temperatures, and that shifts off to the east as we get into Thursday. Thursday, high temperatures in the eastern Corn Belt in the 60s and 70s, warming up slightly as we head into the weekend, but still right around average, if not just a little bit below average here. Your high temperatures Friday, and then finishing up with Saturday. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Thursday morning ag forecast video, and I'll have your next Corn Belt regional update for you right here midday on Friday. Have a great day.